You're listening to the Rack and Roundtable podcast, episode number 56. I'm your host, David Oria, and I'm here with my co-host.
Chris Agana, and we have no guest today. Today, we did talk about the awesome women's national team over in the Philippines. David, do you want to say their successes recently?
Yeah, man. So they legit just won the AFF Cup, which is a huge deal, never been done before in Philippines history. And they just qualified for the Women's World Cup, which is huge. Like, I can't even begin to describe.
I know because you're a huge soccer fan, obviously.
I am.
But I mean, we get into representation, we get into like a couple topics about our perspectives on balance. But it's a really good talk, just me and David today. But I think you guys will enjoy it.
Love you guys. All right, dude, it's kind of weird. It's just you and I, man. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. It's first time on camera together, just us.
Oh man, dude, it's cool to sometimes, not sometimes, all the time. I value these conversations that you and I just get to share on the waves of the podcast platform or
For sure.
whatnot. So, but dude, this is something that we were kind of discussing offline that's been pretty huge, at least in our community, you know. And I think, I mean, it's kind of bad to say. I feel like a lot of people didn't even really know about it, but just as a sports fan, soccer fan, for myself, I was following this. So for those of you who are listening and don't know, the Philippines women's national soccer team just won the AFF Cup, and a couple weeks ago, they also qualified for the Women's World Cup, which both things never been done before, and just awesome that these women are like repping our country. I don't know, just it made me feel that like sense of pride just watching them, also like watching their games. It's kind of crazy, man.
That's awesome. And I'll admit that I had no idea until I saw David's Instagram. But him telling me World Cup, I was like, oh snap, they qualified for the World Cup. Yo, we made it. But I mean, to me, all I could think is like, man, these girls like are killing it in their passion. Right. And of course, like we identify with them, being Filipinos, being Filipino Americans. It's like when you see people who are succeeding at that level and we can identify with them, man, it just like it resonates. What was that hashtag you said that
Yeah, so the hashtag that they've been repping a couple ones, but one that resonated with me was Para Sabayan, like, so for the people. I was like, ooh, when I saw that, I was just like, yes, let's go. Like it just hit me in the feels. And it's like you said, man, when you see someone excelling at the level that they are, and they look like you,
Mhm.
and they talk like you, and also they're like intentionally representing you, that
Yes.
that just like, I don't, dude, that just hits me, man. I love that.
I know, man. You can't help but like relate. You know what I mean? You can't just you look at them and you're like, because it's not something we see often, right? And that's not just in like sports, but like different media, right? Things that we consume every day. When you see somebody who looks like you can identify with, representation. I mean, that's a game changer. It motivates you. It's like, man, what can I do that I'm passionate about and succeed in, and open a whole new gate, a whole new arena for people who look like me to succeed in. You know what I mean? I mean, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man, keep going. That's great.
I mean, that's all. I'll go ahead, man.
I think what when you were saying that, what made me think of is that, as much as that's like, it's awesome and it's like an awesome feeling, sometimes being at that level, kind of feels lonely, especially when there's people at that level that also don't look like you. You're the first people. You're like the trailblazer. Like you're
Hmm.
the you're the
Hmm.
first you're the first one to get there, of like your people. And sometimes, I mean, I can only imagine. I don't play professional soccer or anything like that, but it's like I have to like think that maybe it's like an awesome accomplishment too, but the road is has to be a rough one, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
being the first to do anything. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure. But I think we can also put in perspective where it's like, so being at the World Cup is a huge stage, but there's other ways to level of success that maybe you can pave the way for people that are within your community, right? For example, if you are in the corporate world and you look around and you become like a
Mhm.
VP, and nobody else there is, in our case, Filipino American, Asian American. Like that's your opportunity to bring that to light. Say, hey, there's a lack of diversity here. There's people who are just as qualified or whatever, and that's kind of like your opportunity to again open up the arena for everybody else. Share that big cake with everybody else, or actually make a bigger cake for everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think that? I mean, I think it does, but I'm curious to see like how you feel about this. But that being that person, right, to represent like group of people in that type of arena, whether it's corporate or like you said, you're the first person that that looks like you that's there. Does that add on a layer of pressure where you can't you have to like watch where you're stepping and you have to I feel like that happens a lot these days.
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned it earlier, where it's a kind of a lonely feeling if you notice that you are the minority within a group of peers. You know what I mean? But that's why it's better. I mean, it's something that you can't really control, where your leader identifies how you feel, and you can be transparent with them and what you think is lacking. So I mean, understanding your situation, and that's a weird balance that I've noticed. And I bring this up because we've been watching a show called Blackish with
Mm,
Anthony Anderson. And so in that show, it's Anthony Anderson becomes a VP, and he's a black male, and his boss and the other people work around him are white, right? And for some reason, they're always, I know it's part of their comedy and dialogue, but it's like, I'm like, why does he take so much of this crap from them, knowing that he has to keep on like educating them on these things? And it's that weird balance, is like, do you leave because you're like, I can't, this isn't right, or do you stay because you know that you are there to make a change, right? Not just for those people, so it's not really his responsibility to educate them. These people should be aware themselves, but is it his responsibility now to help those from his community to be uplifted too, give them opportunities that they might not have if those other people were there? You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
an interesting
yeah.
balance, I think.
It is, and I think that speaks to, I mean, the type of leader that is placed in that position, but also just the concept of like significance almost. Like, yeah, getting to the top is awesome, but what's even better is bringing people to the top with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't like, and that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, bringing people that look like you to the top, but like, no, like people that you identify with, whether it's their work ethic, whether it's their their values, where they've come from, what they look like or whatever, but just
Mm-hmm.
bringing people that you value to the top with you, and just raising the bar is huge. And I think that speaks to like exactly what these like amazing women did, right? They
Mm-hmm.
just raised the bar for like an entire nation,
Yeah.
right? And just like being able to like feel that is amazing, but that speaks to like that need for just people in general, like whether it's
Mm-hmm.
for your family, right? Whether it's for your family, raise the bar for your family, bring those people up, like you're like little cousins, looking up at you, the next generation looking up at you, and yeah, raising that standard for them.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because you say like your little cousin, whoever else, like you just don't know who's watching. You know what I mean? Not in a way where like they're going to criticize you, but it's like you never know who's looking up to you, looking at you, seeking you for an example. So like uplifting anybody whenever you can, and that means like you excelling as best as you can, right? So it's a responsibility to yourself and to those around you, because you don't know who you're paving the road for next.
Dude, I totally agree, man. I totally agree. You need to just, yeah, you never know who's going to benefit from seeing the growth and progression that you go through, and how that will help them in some way or some form in the future. But like, I guess I want your thoughts, like how does somebody just get to that level of excellence or success or excelling in some certain arena, whatever that arena is?
Oh man, I think it is understanding whatever situation you're in, whether it's something you're passionate about or something that like your work, no matter what it is, even if maybe you're not enjoying it, just you're putting in that full effort of things. Obviously you're identifying your goals, you're identifying your strengths, but at the same time, it's that effort. You know what I mean? It's that ambition. It's like showing that even though someone may not consider this work the most important, the way that I bring importance to it will stick out. You know what I mean? How
Mm.
about for you?
Yeah, man, I totally I see that. I think consistency is probably one of the biggest things, you know,
Hmm.
being consistent and just accountable to yourself, accountable to like the outcome that you're looking for, right? So looking at it's like what do I actually want? Like what's the outcome that I actually want and what level of consistency will get me there? You know, and normally if you're trying to do anything on that high of a level, you know, you need to be consistent even when you don't want to be, right? Even when you don't want to be, it's like I forgot who used this example recently, but it's like Michael Phelps, you know, I'm sure there were a lot of other things that he wanted to do on a Tuesday, but he was still in the pool.
Yeah.
But like look at the outcome,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like he wasn't just some like recreational swimmer or whatever. No, this dude's like a, you know, multi-Olympian. So
Hmm.
it's like, is that like you gotta evaluate the outcome that you want and then, you know, understand like what it's gonna require to actually get there.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely the work ethic that you put in. You know, like it's pretty much going to be the end product of whatever you're attaining for or you're reaching for, right?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, do you think that passion and like has to plays that much of a role?
What do you mean by that?
So like, you know, a lot of people are always like, um, if you have to love it, you have to love it,
Mm,
right? But I always think back to like just that example, right? Like I'm sure there were times when like Michael Phelps didn't love it. I'm sure there were a lot of times when Michael Phelps didn't love it, you know? And so I don't know. It's made me reevaluate like, you know, you don't have to love every bit of it, but like do you love the outcome that it gives you more
mm,
than what you're putting in, you know?
that kind of almost like where you like the outcome, but the work maybe you're not enjoying as much. I mean, isn't it where enjoy the journey? You know what I mean? Over
Yeah.
but I think by bringing up both those aspects is for me. I think one of the things that we emphasize a lot on this platform and also in our mindset is balance. I
Mhm.
mentioned it earlier because like when you said that, what if you're not enjoying the journey as much, or you really enjoy the end result? But it's like if it's over if you're not enjoying it, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
if you're like, okay, I'm enjoying this, but I don't think it's going to get me where I need to be, then that's when you have to reconsider it. So I think it's a lot of balance, man.
Mhm.
What do you think?
I don't know, man. Recently, I've had like my thoughts on balance have have changed a lot.
Mm,
I'll be honest with you. My thoughts on balance have changed a lot, right? Because when you think about it, like we can even relate it back to like our original like topic, right? So like these women, this team,
mm,
right? How much balance do you think they actually experienced on their road to qualifying for the World Cup? Probably not a lot.
mm.
Like probably like they probably had like lack of balance, like an extreme lack of balance, like all the time training, all the time at these games, traveling to different countries, playing these different stadiums, right? And you see that with like NBA players too, right? They are like
Mm.
literally all the time just going and traveling and playing playing games. And it's like there's almost like an inherent lack of balance when someone's trying to achieve something at that level, right?
Yeah, I guess my question for you would be like, I guess are we defining balance the same way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like how I'm seeing balance is that if the journey there was difficult, were they enjoying it as much? I don't know, because if you weren't enjoying it, then why would you keep going? You know what I mean? Yeah, you know that you'll enjoy the victory, but if like you're not enjoying the camaraderie among teammates, you're not enjoying the sport, you're not enjoying the passion of competitiveness, I feel like those who don't have some kind of balance of enjoying that probably wouldn't even win, wouldn't make it there. I think of basketball players who hate playing with each other, and you don't
That's a
often
good
see
point.
them succeeding. You know what I mean?
That's a
Not
good
to
point.
mention any names, Brooklyn Nets, but you know what I mean.
He went
And
there. He
that's
went there.
sorry. It's just, I mean, if there's something that's messing up the balance and the chemistry, then it's going to show in the end product. I'm pretty sure these girls enjoy playing with each other, they enjoy the game, they enjoy the competitiveness, representing their country. But at the same time, traveling, the adversity, whatever else they face was something they didn't enjoy. But I think that's where I wanted to find balance a little bit. But what were you saying as far as the shift of your idea on balance? I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like when because I guess, yeah, when we talk about balance, right? um Balance for, well, at least when we normally have conversations, like balance in life, right?
Mhm.
Balance in life, like for example, your time with your family, your time doing
Oh, I
work,
see.
your time doing this, or and I don't necessarily mean like my love for something, right?
Got it.
I mean like that type of balance, because the thing is, there's a point, I think, when people are kind of on this road to like excelling at that high of a level, you like fall in love with the grind.
Mm,
You fall in love with the lack of balance, right? Because it's causing something, right? Like you said, it's causing this change in chemistry. It's causing this feeling of just growth and excelling, right? You're feeling like you're getting better, you're leveling up, and that feeling is infectious, and maybe sometimes in the process you fall in love with that feeling, you fall in love with that lack of balance that's getting you there, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's where the difference was where you like the
Oh, right,
balance of
right,
like
right, right.
your time and also different things. So I get I understand that your perspective on that for sure.
Yeah, and I think, sometimes I feel like that passion, sometimes it's not, sometimes that passion grows, right?
Mm,
That passion can grow, but it can grow in like different areas, not necessarily passion for, like I said, the passion can grow in terms of like, you're more passionate about like the work that you're doing, you're more passionate about the grind, you're more passionate about like the hurt, the soreness, that you feel after every like training session or something like that. That's what
mhm.
really what gets you through.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because you know what your work's going to lead you to, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, I guess a question that I have is with passion. Like for example, a lot of people always say you should always work in your passion. You know, which isn't something I always agree with because
Yeah.
sometimes that's not where your career is going to lead you to. What I do want to argue is that you make time for whatever your passion is and putting an effort to discover your passion. I don't want people to be like, well, you know, I don't think my passion is I'm passionate about is significant, or that I don't have time to think about what I'm passionate about, or I'd rather just relax and not think about things. You know what I mean? Like when they're on their
Yeah.
off time. So it's either if you're not going to work within the scope of your passion, I still advocate for that you find a passion or something you're passionate about so you can dedicate time to that and make an effort towards that just for again balance of making, you know, having a happier life. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man. I think one like I'm reading right now, it's called a book called The Powerful Engagement, and they talk about like recovery in an interesting way. They talk about like mentally, when you're doing things, you need your brain and your mind and your even your like mindset, your capacity needs time to recover. And a lot of that recovery happens like when you're doing stuff like what you just mentioned, like your passion, right? So
Mm,
say you're working outside of your passion and you're like grinding 110%, like and it's a sprint, right?
mhm,
And then where does your recovery come from? It comes from you not doing what you were just doing, but like falling back on something that you genuinely love, right?
mhm,
And so like I think that's like the perfect analogy, that's your mental recovery. You're being able to like rejuvenate that motivation or your ambition or whatever it is, whatever you need at that time. It comes from that. It comes from having something like that. And dude, yeah, I encourage people to find that as well.
and I would say that as much effort you put in like scheduling your day at work, make that same amount of like energy or like as much time to take to figure out to make time for your passion. You know what I mean? Like we set so much standards at work, I feel like, and I feel like especially working from home, I would say with my wife, I tell her like, man, you're working harder at home than you would do at the office. Cause in the office, you know, you get sidetracked talking to people. It's like as much effort that you put at your work, put in outside of work and what you enjoy doing, man. Because it's like, what are we living for? You know, what are we living for,
Exactly.
guys?
Exactly, man. I think, dude, I use Raccoon Rounds as like the perfect example,
Hmm.
like that is something that is like as much as I like, okay, like don't get me wrong, like I work hard here, like we work here, but like this work is like, it's the recovery.
Hmm.
Even though that's sometimes kind of like counterintuitive, right? Like you're working hard still, but like I'm not working hard at work. I'm working hard at this. And this is like what I truly like love doing. As much as I love working hard, it's still like my part of my mental recovery, right? Like it helps me realize my capacity and stuff like that. So I use that as an example a lot.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because there are times with raccoon rounds, because it takes work. We know what we do,
Yeah.
and we have our lives, like we have our work, we have whatever responsibilities we have with our families. And there are times that I feel like, man, like this is tough. Like, do I have time for this anymore?
Right.
And for me, it's like that same thing where it gets tough, but then you think of that end result and why you're doing
Exactly.
it. I do it because of that one guy who comes up to me like, hey, I heard your podcast. Like,
Yes.
that resonated with me, and I haven't talked to this guy in like 2 years. You know what I mean? Something like that tells me I got to keep going. We got to keep going. And that's what this type of passion, I'm getting goosebumps right now, but this type of passion that I'm describing is what I want everybody to have, whatever it is. Right.
Yes, man. Yes, that's really what it is, man. That's what keeps you going. Because yeah, there are gonna be days, and like you can relate this to anything that anyone is doing right now, pursuing actively. Like 110%. There are gonna be days when like you don't want to do it.
Yeah, man.
But like there are gonna be days when you just don't want to do it. You don't want to think about it.
Like those girls who just succeeded, right? I'm pretty
Exactly.
sure.
Exactly. That's what I mean, man. Like they're like Michael Phelps, Kobe, same thing.
Yeah.
There are days when you don't want to do what you got to do, but if excelling and succeeding at that level, and for us, like I think on this platform is like our success and excelling is like our impact and our reach.
Yeah.
If that dream is not big enough, then that's going to overcome then your desire to not do it is going to overcome that. But like if your desire and dream is to excel and succeed in whatever you do, that consistency is going to be critical, because you're going to do it even when you don't want to.
Damn.
Dude, that's what it is, man. And like, dude, just for everybody out there, man, like that's grinding and like, killing it and whatever you guys are doing, just like keep that outcome in mind.
Exactly.
Don't let that stop you. Don't let anything stop you. If it's that big, stay consistent, keep grinding, and it's all gonna fall into place.
Remember your why and fuel your fire, man.
Yeah, let's go.